So while President Trump was touching down today in Florida, he was met by streets lined with supporters. But back in D.C., the streets were practically empty for Biden's inauguration after all their fear-mongering over COVID and insider attacks. But for allegedly being the president elected by the largest share of voters ever, the lack of public support for Biden is pretty strange, don't you think?
Well, actually, and I've said this before, he has no supporters and he has no talent. He wasn't elected; he was installed like software. You know, when I looked at the inauguration today, it was an inauguration. It's a farce on steroids. First of all, Biden came across as the scowler in chief. I've never seen an angrier president delivering his first address as president. The highlight was Lady Gaga's rendition of the national anthem and her dress, of course. The military presence was amazing. I've never seen 26,000 troops needed for a popular leader. And that's because he isn't one. It was an angry address. In 2017, Donald Trump said that he wanted to return power to the people. Today, Biden took it back. Now, before I came on your show, I just wanted to review Trump's 2017 inaugural address. So I Googled it, and I found a link at whitehouse.gov. I clicked on it, and guess what? It's already been scrubbed. So the other thing that struck me, Kara, is that Biden falsely called for unity. He doesn't want unity. He wants punity. And he's using his goons in high tech to exact that punity on 75 million Americans. And the other thing that struck me was the phony swearing in. Hand in the air, other hand on the Bible, pledging allegiance to the U.S. Constitution when clearly they don't believe in free speech and they don't believe in the right to have guns. They don't believe in due process. You know, today, Biden said in his speech, if you didn't vote for me, well, that's democracy. And if you don't want to support me, well, that's the way it goes. But we don't believe in suppressing voices and speech in our country. That's exactly what he believes in. So the whole thing, again, was a farce on steroids.
And now, correct me if I'm wrong. I know this is just a picky detail, but I believe when Biden was being sworn in that this was actually taking place about 10 or so minutes before noon, which is when the actual transition of power happens.
Yeah, I was struck by that too, because I thought it was supposed to happen at noon. So I can't imagine that there's any competition going on. But the other thing too is you mentioned in your monologue, China, 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 China. We have a severe problem in this country, and that problem is if you imagine America as a house, that house is infested with termites. Those termites are Marxists. We have Marxists being trained in school with the 1619 Project and BLM propaganda. Every kid coming out of school now is an AOC clone. In corporate America, employees are being forced to read the white fragility book, that garbage white fragility book, and BLM propaganda. In fact, if you remember last summer, CEOs couldn't fight over themselves fast enough to fund BLM with hundreds of millions of dollars, and BLM is a Marxist organization. Then you have the government teaching critical race theory. So the common thread through all of this is if you're white, hate yourself, and death to America. So it's a huge problem. And then you have the Republicans looking at this house crumbling because of the Marxist termites. And the best that they can do is paint the shutters and plant petunias. They're doing nothing to attack the root problem. And the root problem is so vast and pervasive. If you were to take Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz and clone them to be 535 members of Congress, they still can't fix it because you have 330 million people in America. In Georgia, they just elected 2 communists. So it's a huge problem, and Washington can't fix it now. It's too late. So I'm not very excited about the future of America. We had one guy fighting back, one guy, Donald Trump, and he's now out of office. So you have the Democrats controlling the White House, the Senate, the Congress, and the courts. the courts which would not hear any election fraud cases. So that's America now. And a lot of people are so dismayed and so sad, they don't even want to talk about it anymore. It's pretty scary, Kara.